do a video talking about engineer, and I'm going to talk about the first thing I'm going to talk about is guns. So I'm going to do kind of like a series of guides aimed at the engineer and how you should be using them. Now, I did an hour video, just like literally finished it, and I wasn't happy with it, mainly because it was an hour long and it drags out. So I'm going to split it down into smaller guides which are manageable. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is guns. The second thing is like equipment. What equipment? I'm going to talk about what you should be buying for an engineer in terms of implants, and I'm going to talk about advanced implants and advanced kind of tactics, what you would do as an engineer. Now this is going to be a set of guides, so this guide currently is 1 of 1. So if you've selected all the other guides first, then you really should be viewing this one first. So I'm going to talk about guns. This is going to be new player based stuff for new players. I feel like new players skip every other class and jump straight to engineer straight off the bat. Now if you were one of those guys, then you're doing it wrong in my opinion. This is because heavy assault is a guy that goes to the point and gets a ton of kills. The engineer is the guy that does the repairing and brings stuff to the table that other people can't bring. For example, hard light barriers, anti-infantry miner turret, Spitfire turret. You can also bring mines and C4 and all the rest of it. So you have to bear that in mind when picking the engineer. Now, straight off the bat, we're going to go straight to guns. I'm just going to stick to guns in this particular video, just because last time I ended up being an hour-long video and I didn't even talk about half the stuff I wanted to talk about. You have to say that an engineer is the jack of all trades kind of guy, and he is in a way. He has various things that help him cope with various situations. Now, he's not the one thing he is not. And that is a 1v1 god. He's not very good at 1v1ing, especially fighting heavy assaults. You will struggle to fight heavy assaults, so don't try. Your job is to bring stuff like anti-infantry miner turret, Spitfire turret, put down mines, that kind of thing. You bring stuff to the table that other classes can't bring, and you utilize them to get kills or to get whatever you want, to take the point, defend the point, whatever, attack the point. Now in this video I'm just going to go into carbines. I'm just going to brush over carbines. Now the reason why I have assault rifle and LMG access is because I have ASP 100. So if you don't know what that is, you're going to have to research ASP. I have a video on it, you might want to check that out. So yeah, so here, as you can see, I have a bog standard engineer. Guns vary depending on what situation you find yourself in. Some guns are medium to long range, some of them are close range. Generally with the carbines you have good all-rounders, generally in my opinion. Some guns I would not pick, and some guns I would pick for certain situations. I'll talk about that as I go into each gun and what they do, what they mean, etc. You also have to take into account the damage models of each gun. So the Charger, for example, it has 167 damage at 10 meters. 10 meters that's 10 meters there. So they're stood at 10 meters. So anywhere below 10 meters, you're doing 167, as you see. So yeah, just throwing that out there as well. Right, so we're going to start with the Charger. Now the Charger I would not recommend. I wouldn't recommend it. If you're good at aiming with the Charger, then the Charger is a beast. Personally, I just don't use it. The reload, it has a long reload. I think it's quite up there with one of the longest reloads. But personally, you have to be able to hit headshots. Now, the reason why I Araxium this, and Araxium is, if you look at the gun, I have a medal next to it. That means I've Araxiumed it. So I've got 1,160 kills with it, which is an Araxium. Now, to Arax a gun, to find out what gun you need to Arax, you have to go into directives. I was looking for getting the Fortuna, which is an Araxium weapon. Now, you get the Araxium Fortuna by completing 5 guns, Araxium in 5 guns. Get the words out. So you've got the MGR C1 Charger, the Mercenary, the ACX11, Razer, and the Gd7F. Now, I'll talk about them in detail in a bit, but the Charger, I already had about 400 kills with it when I came back to the game. Now, I wasn't going to use any other gun, really. I just decided to use the MGR Charger. With that said, is the gun any good? I wouldn't recommend it for new players. I would stay away from it. There's better options out there, so yeah. Moving on, we've got Fortuna. Right, is this any good as an actual gun? The answer is no, not really. Comes with an underbarrel grenade launcher. Not underbarrel grenade, underbarrel shotgun. I don't find myself doing very well with it, even with that, so I stay away from it. So yeah, not going to go into too much detail about it because it's not new player really gun, and it doesn't really fit my guide what I'm trying to do. I could do a weapon review on it, but really there's nothing to talk about. It's not very good. I don't use it, and it's just like any other gun really with an underbarrel shotgun. So yeah, so you might see these NS11 guns. You've got NS11 CB, P, C, and you've got the G here, NS11G. These guns, I don't use them, but they are accurate. They are really good guns. They're kind of like the Nsx Tanto, really. I think the NS11CP on the PC, I think you can unlock it for free with a code. But on the PS4, you can't do that. Now, some people have, like myself, have tried to get this. You have to pay Daybreak no matter what you do. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So I'm not going to go into these NS11 CPs because you have to buy them. As a new player, you won't be buying them with Daybreak. Don't buy a gun with Daybreak. Do not buy a gun with Daybreak. Okay, buy a gun with certs. Certs is in-game currency that you use to unlock anything really. So yes, so Nsx Tanto and Gauze Compact. So I'm going to go to these. Gauze Compact, I actually quite like this. I like the way it fires, like that. I have unlocked it. I do use it. It's good for medium to long range engagements. Close range, I don't tend to use it, but I use it mainly for hitting people at medium to long range. It has a nice burst to it. If you can aim properly with this, you'll do a lot of damage. So moving on, you've got the Nsx Tanto. Now the Nsx Tanto is really strong as well. This gun is good because it's really accurate, as you can see. Really accurate gun. Now with this, generally I'll talk about it because it's unique. I generally always run either the forward grip or the extended mags. I tend to run the extended mags quite a lot because it's actually quite accurate. And it has a lot of rounds. It has 36 rounds. So it's pretty good, and the reload's pretty solid. The only downside to this, and why I don't use it as much, is because it's got 143 damage model. If you look at the damage model on the Charger, it's got 167 at 10 meters. This gun, the NS11CP, CB even, it's kind of like the Tanto. It's kind of the same model really. So this gun only has 143 at 10 meters. Same as the Nsx Tanto, really. Even though you can't view it in the stats, that's what it has. So I don't use it as much as I should. It's a good weapon to use for a directive. That's why people will use it. It is good, accurate weapon, so I'd recommend getting it. But getting it straight off the bat, I wouldn't. I would hold out for a bit. Now the AF-19 Mercenary is a good gun, good solid gun. I would recommend getting this first, Obviously, well, it's a starter weapon, so you have no choice but to get it or to use it. But what I'm saying is, I wouldn't go Araximin or trying to unlock other weapons. Now, the AF-90 Mercenary is my go-to gun. I have 2,000 kills with this gun. I had 2,000 kills before I even really started buying another gun. You don't need to select different guns. Okay, you can use the 19 Mercenary and get a ton of kills with it. Now, as I say, you're not frontline troops. Okay, you're not a frontline guy. You hang around at the back, give people ammo, you repair stuff. That's your job as an engineer. The job isn't to go in a room and kill people. You have your gun to protect yourself. You're mostly used for defensive. So let me just show you quick. So heavy assault, offensive. Max assault, offensive. Engineer, defensive. Combat medic, defensive and offensive. But with a combat medic, you're mostly defensive. Light assault. Now these are all based on my opinions for Ceres, but this is what I feel. Light assault is advanced and offensive. Infiltrator is mostly defensive, but can be offensive in some cases. Mostly defensive though. So yeah, just to bear that in mind. Now when you're picking your gun, doesn't really matter what you pick, you're always going to do the same with it, depending. So the AF-19 Mercenary, for example, you want to be picking the AF-19 Mercenary like most of the time. You don't need to go out and buy another gun at 1,000 certs. You're going to do just as well with the AF-19 Mercenary. Now the AF-19 Mercenary, I would pick the one-time sight straight away, like this. Now the one-time sight enables you to spot targets better, but also using no sight. So let me just using no sight. So as you can see here. So yeah, what you want to be doing, I'm just going to go over here because he's shooting his gun. He keeps spotting. So really what you want to be doing is you want to be picking the flash suppressor and the light laser sight. You could pick the forward grip. Laser sight and forward grip depending on if you aim down sights a lot or if you laser sight. Now, people have said to me that hip firing in this game is really strong, so get used to hip firing. Hip firing is good when you have a laser sight. So yeah, I sometimes don't pick a sight. I sometimes leave the sight off. I can better aim my gun like this. So yeah, it's all good. So the AF-90 Mercenary is the gun that you pick at the start. It's always going to be the go-to gun for any engineer, and it's a good solid gun. You don't need to change. So moving on, you've got the Af4a Bandit. Now the Af4a Bandit is what you use to for hip firing. It's a hip fire king. You also do a ton of damage with it as well. As you can see, the hip fire doesn't change much. Okay, if you're using something like say I was picking an LMG, okay, if you're hip firing, you see how the bloom is massive. It's not terrible, but then again, I mean, I'm just using this as an example. So yeah, so hip fire king. I would recommend the Af4a Bandit if you do a lot of hip firing. Other than that, I wouldn't really recommend it. It's just like, I see it more as a standard gun. The Af4a Bandit is something that you would use with, say for example, you could use it with Sidewinder. So Sidewinder implant makes you sway from side to side quick. When you're aiming down sights, it gives you an aim down sights multiplier when you're moving. So let's read it, see. So it says here, so designed with mobility in mind, the lightweight alloy that makes up Arax's firearms allows faster movement while aiming down sights. So combine this with this Sidewinder, which gives you increased strafe speed. You will be a menace on the battlefield, really strong. So yeah, but what I recommend using Sidewinder straight off, not really. I'll talk about classes in another video and what I would recommend implant wise. I'm just trying to brush over at the moment. I'm just trying to brush over guns. There's a lot to talk about as an engineer, so I'm going to be here a long time. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about guns per se, but I had to talk about that because it synergizes well with the Bandit. So yeah. So Razer Gd23. Now the Razer Gd23 is a solid weapon. I would recommend getting the Razer Gd23 over any other weapon in the arsenal really. Now the reason why I would recommend getting this as a new player is because the reload. You shoot, reload. Now this gun has, I think, a 1 second reload. Let me just check. Reload. Yeah, reload is 2 seconds. Sorry, not 1 second. So 2 second reload and a 1.66 second reload. Now, with this gun, if you miss a ton, it's not going to punish you for missing. Most of the time, you're going in and out of cover like this. You go in the cover, you reload, you come back. If you miss a ton, you don't really have to pull out your pistol. You could reload while in cover and come back and fight the guy with your main weapon. You don't always have to pull out your pistol. So yeah, really strong choice. For a new player, I would recommend it. It's a really good choice for anybody really, anybody starting to play the game. One thing you don't want to do with this is get high velocity ammunition. You want to leave that. You want to get flash suppressor. You want to get forward grip. And you want to get a one-time sight. So just throwing that out there. So Gauze Compact S. I use this quite a lot, mainly for burst fire. So you could use this as a normal gun. Get rid of that. But yeah, it does have the option to have an underbarrel shotgun. It's the same really as the Fortuna. It's kind of the same gun. Now I don't use the Gauze Compact S all that much. I did used to run it for the under barrel launchers that it got. So let's have a look. So this is what you can equip: smoke launcher and grenade launcher. I used to use the underbarrel shotgun, but I use it more for the burst fire. So I like the burst fire on it. Like that. So yeah, it has a long reload. That's why I say picking something like the Razer is good, because the long reload isn't there. I mean, this does 167. This does 167 at 10 meters. So they both do the same amount of damage. Just that this Gauze Compact can have underbarrel stuff. You don't really need the underbarrel stuff really on a PS4, because it can be hard to switch between them. As you can see, I have to select fire modes before I get to the shotgun. And it's just a pain in the arse to do that. So just throwing that out there. So Gauze Compact S. So Razer Gd23 I would recommend. Gauze Compact S not so much, but it's there and I have to talk about it. Now the ACX11, moving on. The ACX11 is a really strong gun. Now if you can hit headshots with it, this thing becomes a headshot king. It does 200 damage at close range. So under 10 meters it does 200 damage. Now let's just have a look at the stats real quick. So it does 143 damage after that and 200 damage at close range. Now the rate of fire isn't very high, so you can control it really well, like this. And it's really good, just a good all-rounder. What are these guys doing? Having a short reload on it is nice. What I would do is not put the compensator on, and I wouldn't put the flash suppressor on. Suppressor, sorry. I would just leave them off. Putting the flash suppressor on limits your damage, so I would leave that. And I would not put the high velocity ammunition on. I wouldn't do that. If you're shooting at medium to long range, then this is a necessity. But most of the time as an engineer, you're going to be coming to the point and point holding. Say if you've got a monitor engineer or you're dropping stuff down on the point like Betty's and stuff like that near the point. So it's important to note, but for close range, don't put high velocity ammunition. You want soft point ammunition, but you don't have this on this gun. So I'll put one-time sight on, and I would have advanced forward grip because you want to keep it as steady as you can. You want to try and hit headshots is what you want to be doing. So yeah, so moving on, we've got the Gd7F. Now the Gd7F, the time to kill is the time it takes for you to kill somebody is very high with this weapon. This has the highest damage per shot. Well, it's not highest damage per shot. It's a faster firing gun. So let me get this right. So when you fire the gun, the burst the gun gives you is a massive boost to time to kill. So the time to kill with this weapon, I'm trying to explain it the best I can. But if you fire a ton of rounds at the enemy, you're going to kill them really quick with this weapon. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're fighting a heavy assault, you're still going to struggle. So don't go at heavy assaults with this weapon. Don't pick it and say, right, I'm going to go kill this heavy assault. If you need to kill a heavy assault, pick a heavy assault yourself. Okay, this gun has good time to kill, but it's not OP by any means. Engineer is the bottom of the barrel class when it comes to shooting enemy. Just putting that out there. So yeah, so Gd7F, good time to kill. What I tend to do is run advanced laser sight, I run flash suppressor, and I run a one-time sight. Now you can run any one-time sight you like, it's down to you. But with this, as you can see, you can absolutely blitz people. Now, you really want to be using this at long range. You want to be using it at close range, where they're under 10 meters. Really, you want to be hip firing it as much as you can, like this. Now the weapon does jump all over the place. Now the weapon does jump all over the place, so you have to bear that in mind when you're using this weapon. But at close range, it is a beast. It's probably one of the better guns that you have as an engineer. But the thing is, with this, it has a long reload. It's not completely long, but I would recommend getting this gun as something later down the line. I would get the Razer Gd23 because that's good at all ranges. It's good at medium, close, and long range. With the Gd7F, you want to be using it at mostly close range, so like biolabs. The only thing I struggle with this gun is if I'm getting like 2 or 3 enemies on a point, you will successfully kill one enemy, but then you will struggle to kill the second one because of the reload. That's the only problem. It's good as a 1v1 gun, but anything up more than that and you're struggling. That's why the Razer is really good in my opinion. The last gun on the list is the NS11CG. Now the NS11CG is part of the NS family. They're all the same really, they're kind of like the Tanto. So yeah, so that's all the guns I've covered. I'm going to go into other things to do with an engineer in the next guide. I'm going to try and group all these together in a folder so you can check them all out one at a time. You've got to bear in mind that as an engineer, your main purpose for picking an engineer is vehicle play. You have options to go to a point and defend using the Mana turret, the Spitfire turret, you've got mines, etc. But you die more than any other class. You don't have an overshield, you don't have a medic ability, you don't have a medic overall ability like nano regen. Light assault has the ability to climb on buildings. You do not have that as an engineer. You can't climb on buildings, you can't fly up to the top of a building. Your main focus is giving nano armor kit repairs and ammo. So yeah, I hope this answers your question about what guns to pick. I've had a few people ask me over the months, what gun would you recommend? There's no perfect gun really. in my opinion. But the Razer helps you a lot with the short reload, and the GD7F is good for short range. If you can hit headshots, get the ACX11. The AF19 Mercenary is a strong gun. It's got a good reload and it's good all-rounder as a start-off weapon. The rest of them are down to you. I wouldn't get the Charger. I'd get the Nsx Tanto if you wanted to do the directive. Other than that, I wouldn't entertain it, because it doesn't have the damage model that all these other guns have. NC has good carbines, but you have to be accurate with them. Now, getting accurate comes with coming into VR and practicing headshots, learning how to hit headshots, learning how to be good at hip firing, you know, movement, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that there because I think I've gone into it and covered as much as I can as a new player, you know, towards a new player, or towards anybody really looking to play engineer. So yeah, I hope this helped. I hope you have a good weekend, guys. The weekend's upon us. You know, Saturday night fights are going to be plentiful because the population's been really good. So anyway, I'll let you get on, guys, and I'll see you soon. Take care.